All right, let's be real. Living alone as a senior isn't always the picture-perfect thing people imagine. Some days it feels like freedom. Other days, well, it feels like you've been left holding the bag at a party that ended 30 years ago. But here's the thing. Living alone doesn't have to mean living small. In fact, the secret to living fully at this stage of life isn't about doing more. It's about forgetting a few things that have been weighing you down. So today, I want to walk you through 10 things seniors living alone should forget if you want to feel lighter, freer, and a whole lot happier. And don't worry, we'll keep it fun. No lectures, no finger wagging, just honest truths, a few laughs, and hopefully a couple of ideas you can start using tonight. Number 1. Forget the idea that alone means lonely. Here's the thing most people get wrong. Alone doesn't automatically mean lonely. Somewhere along the line, society made us believe that if we don't have a partner at the table or someone waiting at home, we're destined for sadness. But that's not reality. That's just old thinking. I remember a comment from a widower who said, "I thought my house would feel empty after my wife passed. Turns out, it feels like peace. I can read when I want, sleep when I want, and no one hides the remote." That made me laugh, but it also hit me hard. He wasn't denying the loss. He was reframing what being alone could mean. The truth is, loneliness isn't about how many people are in the room. You can sit at a crowded family dinner and still feel unseen, or you can sit on your porch with a good book and a cup of tea and feel completely content. Connection isn't always about numbers. It's about quality. Now, don't get me wrong. Living alone does require a little effort to keep the social side of life alive. You've got to pick up the phone sometimes, send that message, or pop into the senior center. But the beauty is, you get to choose. You decide when you want company and when you want solitude, and there's nothing wrong with enjoying both. One woman put it best. Living alone gave me back my freedom to choose. Loneliness is when you have no choices. I have plenty. That's wisdom. Alone is not a sentence. It's a season, and often a very freeing one. 2. Forget cooking has to be a big production. Now let's talk about food, because this one trips up so many seniors. Somewhere deep in our bones, we're still wired to cook like we're feeding a whole family. Roast, 3 sides, dessert, and a sink full of dishes. But here's the honest truth. When you live alone, cooking should not feel like a Broadway performance every night. One gentleman said, "I still find myself peeling 5 potatoes out of habit, then realize I'm the only one eating. So I eat mashed potatoes for 3 days straight." We've all been there, right? Old habits stick. But here's where the freedom of living alone kicks in. You don't have to impress anybody. If dinner is a grilled cheese sandwich and a pickle, that's a perfectly respectable meal. If breakfast for dinner makes you smile, scramble those eggs and don't apologize. One woman confessed she sometimes eats ice cream straight from the tub at 8 p.m. because who's going to stop me? I loved that. That's not laziness. That's joy with a spoon. And hey, if cooking a meal feels like too much work, I've pinned a link for you in the comments with over 50 soup recipes designed for real life. They're light, comforting, and easy to digest. Perfect for those days when your appetite is low or when you just want to feel a little restored. So be sure to grab a copy. It might just save you on a night when the thought of chopping onions feels like running a marathon. The trick is to think less about tradition and more about practicality and pleasure. Cook in smaller portions. Freeze extra so that future you will thank present you. Try assembly meals, like crackers, cheese, fruit, and maybe a little glass of wine. That don't even require a stove. And most importantly, drop the guilt about it. Food isn't about proving you're capable of hosting Thanksgiving every night. It's about feeding yourself in ways that feel nourishing, easy, and sometimes just plain fun. I know one senior who calls his Friday night experiment night. He grabs whatever's left in the fridge and invents a new recipe. He admits some of them are terrible, but he laughs about it. That's the spirit. Cooking when you live alone should feel like self-care, not self-punishment. Whether that's a hearty stew you stretch for a week or popcorn for dinner while watching your favorite show, both count as living fully. 3. Keeping the whole house company ready. Let me be blunt, my friend. Your home is not a museum, and you are not running a bed and breakfast, but you'd be surprised how many seniors still act like unexpected guests might burst through the door at any moment for a white glove inspection. Why? That pressure to keep the house spotless at all times is leftover thinking from another era. Back when company just dropped by unannounced and you were judged on how shiny your floors were. Guess what? Nobody does that anymore. And if they do, they're probably not the kind of friends you need anyway. I knew a woman who said she still polished her coffee table every evening because her mother-in-law, 30 years gone, once criticized her for fingerprints on the glass. Can you believe that? She was still cleaning for the ghost of a judgmental relative. Living alone means you get to decide what's clean enough. When you're the only one walking through the front door, the only standard that matters is yours. If the sink has 2 plates in it, who cares? If the laundry sits on the chair for a day or two, congratulations. You've just given yourself a break. Dust bunnies? They don't bite. One guy joked, "I vacuum before friends come over, but only so they don't think I've been wrestling squirrels in the living room." That's about as far as you need to go. A lived-in home is proof of life, not failure. The truth is, when you let go of the need to keep your house company ready, you gain back time and energy. And you can spend that time doing things that actually make you happy. Reading, gardening, napping, even binge-watching old shows. No one, and I mean no one, ever said on their deathbed, "I wish I'd scrubbed more baseboards." Forget that pressure. Your home should serve you, not the imaginary company you're preparing for. 4. Forget the stigma about asking for help. Now let's tackle this one, because it's a biggie. Too many seniors carry pride around like a heavy backpack. They think asking for help is a sign they're slipping, or worse, a burden to others. But here's the reality. Asking for help is not weakness. It's actually wisdom. I remember a story from a man who strained his back carrying a bag of soil from the trunk. He admitted later that his teenage neighbor had offered to help, but he refused because he didn't want to look helpless. The result? He spent 2 weeks stuck in his recliner, glaring at the soil bag every time he looked out the window. Tell me, which one looks more helpless, letting a teenager help for 5 minutes or being sidelined for half a month? People like to feel useful. Think about it. Back in the day, didn't you feel good when someone asked you for advice or a hand with something? That's still true for others now. The boy next door might be thrilled to mow your lawn because it puts cash in his pocket. Your daughter might feel better knowing you asked her to pick up milk because it means you're letting her into your life. Asking creates connection, not shame. One woman put it perfectly. "Every time I ask my neighbor for help carrying groceries, he thanks me. He says I gave him an excuse to check in and feel neighborly. I thought I was bothering him. Turns out I was giving him a gift." That's a whole new way of looking at it. Here's the thing. Independence doesn't mean doing everything yourself until you break. Real independence means knowing how to use the tools, people, and resources around you so you can keep living well on your own terms. And sometimes that tool is a helping hand. Forget the old stigma. You're not weak for asking. You're smart. And if anyone ever tries to make you feel otherwise, just smile and say, "Well, when you're my age, you'll understand." 5. Forget saving the good stuff for later. Now this one, oh boy, this one gets me fired up. I can't tell you how many seniors I've talked to who admit they've got a cabinet full of the good dishes that almost never see the light of day. Or the fancy perfume their spouse bought them years ago that they're still saving. Saving for what? The Queen's visit? Listen, if you've got china you love, pour your morning cereal in it. If you've got a sweater that makes you feel like $1,000,000, wear it to the grocery store. Forget waiting for the mythical special occasion. You know what makes a day special? You being here, alive, choosing to enjoy it. I remember one man saying he had a bottle of expensive whiskey he'd been saving for years. Finally, at 78, he popped it open one random Tuesday night while watching a baseball game. He said, "I realized if I wait much longer, someone else will be drinking this at my funeral. And I'd rather it be me." That's wisdom right there. Saving the good stuff comes from this old mindset, maybe it was drilled into us as kids, that we should ration joy, that luxury or delight is earned only on birthdays, holidays, or when company comes over. But when you live alone, guess what? You're the company, and you deserve the best of what you own, every single day. I'll even say it with a little humor. Wear that nice shirt while you're making toast. Spritz on the good cologne before you head out to buy batteries. Eat cake on a Monday just because it's Monday. Life isn't about hoarding your joy for later. It's about using it up while you still can. And here's the kicker. When you use your good stuff now, you realize it's not about the item. It's about the feeling. That china plate isn't just porcelain. It's dignity and celebration. That perfume isn't just a smell. It's confidence in a bottle. That whiskey, it's a toast to yourself for still being here. So please, forget the waiting game. Pop the cork, light the candles, use the nice towels. Because every day you wake up is a special occasion, whether the world notices or not. 6. Holding on to every little thing. You know what I've noticed? A lot of us spend our later years living inside what feels less like a home and more like a storage unit. Closets stuffed with clothes from the 70s, kitchen drawers full of plastic lids with no matching containers, and boxes in the garage that haven't been opened since Reagan was in office. And the funny part is, half the time we don't even remember what we're keeping, just that it feels too hard to let go. But here's the truth, my friend. Holding on to every little thing only weighs you down. That teapot you never use but keep just in case? The holiday decorations you don't have the energy to put up anymore? They're not serving you. You're serving them. One gentleman finally decided to tackle his garage. He admitted he found a box labeled "Important Papers" from 1992. Inside, old coupons and a broken flashlight. He said it was like digging through a time capsule of nonsense. The moment he tossed it all, he said he felt 10 pounds lighter. Not his body, his mind. Letting go doesn't mean throwing away your memories. It means keeping the best ones and releasing the rest. That wedding dress you'll never wear again? Maybe give it to your granddaughter for fabric. Those old tools you can't lift anymore? Pass them to a neighbor who will put them to use. The things that are truly meaningful will stay, but the clutter, that just steals space, energy, and sometimes even joy. One woman said she finally donated her good china after realizing she hadn't touched it in 20 years. She laughed and said, "Turns out my good china was good at collecting dust." Once it was gone, she gained cabinet space and a strange sense of freedom. So forget holding on to every little thing. Your home should feel like a place to live, not a museum of everything you've ever owned. Keep the memories, sure, but let the objects go. Trust me, the more space you create in your home, the more space you create in your life. 7. Believing fun is for the young. This one always makes me smile. Somewhere along the way, someone told us that fun has an expiration date, like milk. That after a certain age, you're supposed to settle into the serious business of being old. Sit quietly, knit a little, maybe watch the news, but definitely don't act silly or adventurous. Nonsense. Absolute nonsense. Fun doesn't belong to the young. Fun belongs to anyone who remembers how to laugh, how to try something new, or how to not care what the neighbors think. I'll never forget reading about an 82-year-old man who bought a skateboard just so he could roll down his driveway one afternoon. His neighbors thought he'd lost his marbles. He said, "Maybe I did, but I found my smile." That's fun. That's life. And fun doesn't have to be wild or dangerous. It can be as simple as joining a karaoke night, taking a painting class, or blasting your favorite music while you mop the floor. One woman said she started hula hooping in her living room for exercise. She admitted she looks ridiculous, and then added, "That's half the joy of it." Think about it. When was the last time you laughed so hard your cheeks hurt? That should be happening at every age. And yet too many seniors cut themselves off from joy because they've bought into the lie that fun is childish. Forget that. The moment you stop allowing yourself to have fun, you start aging faster than any calendar can make you. Fun is what keeps you feeling alive. It's not reserved for the kids on bikes or the 20-somethings at concerts. It's for you too. Whether that means dancing in your kitchen, learning a TikTok trend with your grandkids, or finally joining that community theater group you've been secretly eyeing. So let's make this clear. Fun is not optional. It's fuel. And if anyone ever says, "Aren't you too old for that?" just grin and reply, "Too old for fun? Not a chance. Too old to care what you think? Absolutely." 8. Comparing yourself to couples. I'll be straight with you. This one's tough, because everywhere you look, it feels like the world is made for two. Restaurant tables are set for pairs, vacation packages advertise romantic getaways, and even those little heart-shaped pizzas assume there's someone sitting across from you. It can make living alone feel like you're missing out. But here's the reality. Couples aren't automatically happier, and living alone doesn't mean you've lost out on love or companionship. I remember a comment from a widower who said, "For years I thought everyone in pairs was better off. Then I started noticing the silence between them at restaurants, the bickering at the grocery store, the tension over little things. I realized being in a couple doesn't guarantee happiness, it just guarantees company." That hit me like a hammer. See, we tend to romanticize couples when we're alone, but we forget the other side of the story, having to compromise on what TV show to watch. Sharing a bed when you'd rather spread out like a starfish. Listening to someone snore every single night. You, my friend, don't have to deal with any of that. You've got freedom, quiet when you want it, and the ability to eat popcorn for dinner without anyone raising an eyebrow. That's not a loss. That's a win. Does that mean companionship is bad? Of course not. Human connection is beautiful. But so is independence. The problem comes when you let comparison steal the joy from your own life. Couples don't have a monopoly on meaning or love. You can have it through friendships, community, family, or even that barista who greets you by name every morning. So forget comparing yourself to couples. They've got their life, you've got yours. And if you really want perspective, remember this. A lot of couples secretly envy the peace and freedom that you get every single day. 9. Forget waiting for the big moments. Now this one. Oh, it's sneaky. So many people live as if life hasn't truly started yet. They think happiness will come when they take that big trip, when the grandkids visit, when they finally buy that thing they've been saving for. And while those big moments are wonderful, they don't happen every day. If you're waiting for the fireworks to enjoy your life, you'll miss the daily sparkles that make it worth living. One gentleman shared something I loved. He said, "After my wife passed, I kept putting off doing little things for myself because I thought they'd feel empty alone. Then one morning, I bought myself fresh flowers for the table. It was like my kitchen came alive. That's when I realized the big moments I thought I needed were hiding in small, everyday ones." That's wisdom, right there. Living fully when you're alone means savoring the ordinary. A good cup of coffee on the porch while the birds argue in the trees. Watching a sunset and realizing you don't need to narrate it for anyone else. It's just for you. Making a pot of soup and enjoying how the house fills with that warm, familiar smell. These aren't small moments at all. They're the very fabric of life. One woman said, "I used to save my nice pajamas for when family visited. Now I wear them on Tuesday nights and eat chocolate in bed. Every night can be a big moment if you let it." That's the spirit. If you spend your days waiting for the grand events, the trip, the romance, the reunion, you risk letting whole weeks and months slide by unnoticed. But if you start treating every ordinary day as its own celebration, suddenly life feels bigger, fuller, and more joyful than you expected. Forget waiting for the big moments. The big moments are already here. You're just drinking your tea, reading your book, or laughing at a silly memory. That's not filler between events. That's the good stuff. 10. Forget thinking you're done growing. Let me tell you something, my friend. The biggest myth about getting older is that somehow life has already been written, like the book's finished, and all you're doing now is sitting in a rocking chair rereading old chapters. Nonsense. The truth is, as long as you're still breathing, you're still growing. I remember one senior gentleman who decided he wanted to learn Italian. People laughed at him, saying, "Why bother? You'll never be fluent." And he just shrugged and said, "So what? Every word I learn is one more than I knew yesterday." That's the spirit. Growth isn't about being perfect at something. It's about staying curious, about having a reason to wake up tomorrow and say, "What's next?" Think about it. Our whole lives we're told to grow, in school, in our jobs, in raising families. But once you hit a certain age, people stop expecting it. They almost pat you on the head and say, "Just relax, you've done enough." But if you buy into that, you shrink. You become a smaller version of yourself. And you're not done. Not even close. Maybe growth means trying your hand at writing short stories, or finally learning how to play that dusty guitar sitting in the corner. Maybe it's just downloading a language app and picking up a few French phrases so you can shout "bonjour" at the cashier in the grocery store. Growth doesn't have to be monumental, it just has to be forward. And let's be real, growth keeps you sharp. A guy on a senior forum joked that taking up Sudoku keeps his brain from rusting. Another woman started painting at 70, and now she's selling little watercolor cards to neighbors. That's not just growth, that's blooming in what others call the winter season of life. So forget the idea that your story is over. You're not done. You've still got chapters to write, songs to sing, and lessons to learn. Heck, you might just surprise yourself and discover that this part of your life is the best one yet. And there you have it. 10 things worth forgetting if you really want to live fully on your own terms. Because here's the truth. Living alone isn't a punishment. It's an opportunity. An opportunity to live life without apology, without pressure, and yes, without peeling 5 potatoes when you only need one. If even one of these points hit home, try it out this week and see what changes. And if you want more little boosts like this, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. It really helps me keep bringing you these conversations. Drop a comment too and let me know which forgetting you're ready to practice first. Who knows, your answer might just inspire somebody else watching this. So go live fully, my friend. Life's too short to keep waiting for the big moments. Sometimes the popcorn for dinner kind of nights are the ones that make it sweetest.